Hey there, it's Jody. It's the end of May, and so many changes have happened in the garden, so let's check it out. The hothouse has been closed more than expected as the nights dip down into 50 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been a blessing to keep the peppers with their delicate blossoms safe in the evenings. When the doors in the hothouse have been open, I haven't seen any bees come through to pollinate, so lately I give the little peppers a little jiggle to hand pollinate. As for the other plants growing in the hothouse, there's ginger, and I also have some baby seedlings here until they get a little bit larger: honey nut squash, cucumber, and melon. I also have aster and verbena that I'm going to keep here until they get a little bit larger. They're supposed to bloom sometime in late summer. And above here, there's some hanging pots with some adorable pinwheel-colored petunias. I still want to try hanging a pepper plant in one of these pots, and perhaps a thyme plant, so we'll see how that goes. Future plans for this area: move in some Baxter bush tomatoes, okra, melon, and beans. Lantern Way is looking a bit more like a cottage garden as there are some new additions: autumn sage, skyscraper salvia, coreopsis, sunflowers, and zinnias. I also put in some ground covering plants like bacopa and blanket flower. In the near future, I do want to plant some cosmos, as that's going to provide a little bit of the whimsical foliage. But there is a lot more needed to create a cottage garden. As you know, I'm always looking for pet-safe plants because pets are curious and unpredictable. I also want to attract some more beneficial pollinators, and native plants do just that. So after hours of research, I finally decided on some native wildflower seeds that are pet safe to suit my garden. Over in the elevated patch, I harvested the brassica plants, and I had my first tiny harvest of rhubarb. The trellis is now up with some squash, cucumber, tomato, vine melon, and sweet potatoes in the back. The coneflower in the center is growing lovely this year. I plant these seeds every year, and it always takes them about 2 to 3 years to bloom. Current plans for this area: harvest the lettuce before it goes to seed, and plant melons and beans. And once the squash and cucumber plants are a bit larger, I'll plant some beans and flowers in any of the empty spots. The boardwalk area was neglected in May as I focused on expanding a couple new garden areas, and I also revitalized the succulents area. The potatoes here probably have another month left to harvest, at which time I'll amend the soil and move in the tomatoes, squash, melons, and cucumbers from the greenhouse. As I'm looking now, I think I might have a couple of areas I can transplant some of those plants sooner. The snapdragons are struggling a bit, so I'll need to deadhead the flowers and fertilize. I also need to find some locations for the baby western redbud trees, because I don't want to stunt their growth. Along the garden path, the sunchokes have grown from 5 inches to almost 3 feet since last month's garden tour. The roses have gone wild with so many blooms. Speaking of blooms, I finally discovered one blossom on the raspberry plant. And this artichoke plant has a little baby artichoke. Garden Vale is the area where I have fabric pots. The parsley is going to seed, which will attract finches, sparrows, and swallowtail butterflies. And in the back, the fabric vertical wall has been improved with some salvia and house leek. Last month, the area looked pretty sad, but I repotted the sedum, and they look much happier for it. In the past month, I expanded the wildlife areas. I'll reveal the new pollinator garden in a bit. For this area, I moved the bridge that the pets use to another area and added some rocks to cover the open space below. Other changes include a bird station that offers a perch for them to survey the garden for pests. It also has nesting materials, and I do provide just a little bit of black oil sunflower seeds and soot. The visitors I caught on camera are the tiny oak titmouse and a California blue scrub jay. And over in this area, the new sensory garden for the pets is in development. To jumpstart the area, I moved the bridge here and planted some pet-friendly plants like calibrachoa and thyme. In the front, there's basil in the pot. On the right side, there's catnip and lemon balm. I placed an outdoor rug in the area to provide some texture, but I can also use it to relax outdoors or work on projects near the pets. Other plants in the area is this beautiful black sedum, and in the back, there's weigela, which is a pet-friendly flowering shrub, and there's 2 types of sage nearby. When the cats are outside with me, they seem to be sticking around here a bit more than they used to, and I think it's because of these minor changes. There's a lot more changes to make it a pet sensory garden, but it's equally important to cut back some of the plants that are toxic to humans and pets, like oleander and periwinkle that the hummingbirds adore. Cutting back the oleander alone will provide some sunlight to the plants in the area. There's all types of ideas that are kind of running through my head, so be sure to check back to see the progress in this area. And behind the greenhouse, the other wildlife areas in development, a flutter garden dedicated to pollinators like bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. The area receives about 7 hours of sunlight, but some of the sunlight is dappled from the trees above. So what better name than Dappleglade? At the moment, there's a variety of flowering plants like butterfly bush, salvia, weigela, and forsythia. On the other side, there's zinnia, salvia, bacopa, and bare root sedum plants in the pots for now. I also made a pollinator water station for the bees and butterflies. I don't know why, but I never knew that they needed water. And I discovered it one day when I noticed a California sister butterfly trying to land in the dog's pool. After further research, butterflies and bees look for water sources. So a water station with flat rocks and marbles are a great combination for them. And over in the back, I have a native bee house that Ryan built for me. I painted the exterior 2 shades of blue and placed some native bee tubes inside. Let's check what's growing in the greenhouse. In the back there, I've got okra, lots of squash, melons, all kinds of zinnias and sunflowers. I'm trying to propagate these plants here. And here is something very exciting. I have coral bells that I planted from bare root. So I'm very excited about those. And lots of tomatoes here that I transplanted recently. And I think this is tomatoes too. Yeah, a lot of tomatoes here. And tons of Malabar. As you can see, there's a lot of baby seedlings that need to be transplanted. And the final stop of the tour is Shadowvale, an area that gets the least sunlight. Over in the barrel pot, there's alyssum interplanted with plum and purple petunias. The nasturtiums are also in bloom. This is the peach melba. And the cauliflower, broccoli, and celery rapidly grew in the past few weeks. Future plans for this area: experiment with squash, cucumber, and tomatoes. Thanks for watching the latest garden tour. I hope this video inspires you in some way. Until next time.